This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 121.
Welcome to We the SEs podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramzi Majaba.
What's going on, SE Nation? Welcome back to another episode. So this is a different kind of episode. First off, Benny is not here, as you can tell. It's just me. I'm your host. My name is Ramzi Majaba, in case you didn't know that. And today I am not interviewing anybody, but someone's actually interviewing me. Akshat from SENY, Sales Engineers of New York. He really wanted to do to me what I do to others and put me on the spot and ask me a whole bunch of questions where we talk about my personal life a little bit, my career trajectory, how I became a sales engineer, and why we the SE started. And he had something called the rapid fire, which Sam Pena, also of SENY, came up with, and basically he wanted to put me through the ringer and I guess get revenge for the other 100 or so guests that I had on the show. So from that perspective, I hope you enjoy it. But before we jump into the show, the We the SE initiative, the Leave No SE Behind initiative is still going on. We're still recording some interviews. So if you've been affected by Corona and you want to, actually one of the people that I interviewed got a job, so yay. But yeah, like if you need help getting your name out there, branding yourself, showing your stuff to hiring managers, by all means reach out, let me know so I can actually interview you. And even if it's in a different language, I have friends who know different languages as well, so we can do that. Anyways, let's jump into the show.
Hello, We the SEs audience. This is Akshat Srivastava from actually Sales Engineers of New York. And today we have a very special guest with us, Ramzi Marhaba. Ramzi, how does it feel to be a guest on your own podcast?
Weird. I was not expecting this. We were talking about doing a webinar, and turns out you were thinking of hosting me on my own podcast, and I thought, interesting. So it is weird.
Yes, I think, Ramzi, that you have spent a lot of time interviewing a lot of folks, and you always ask them the questions. And I think a lot of us can learn from you and your experiences. So what better way than to use the summertime to actually hear your story?
Sure, why not? So what do you want to know?
So I want to know everything. The way this podcast is going to be set up is we're going to go into 3 sections. First one, we want to know about you. And by we, I mean all us SEs who listen to your awesome podcast. That's something that we want to know about you. The next section talks about, we're going to go into your career trajectory, your experiences as an SE. Then I want to focus a little bit on Be the SEs specifically. How did you start this? What was the inspiration that got you to it? And finally, I have a very interesting round, which I'm not going to tell you anything about, but it's called the Rapid Fire, thanks to Sam Pena, who made this famous with SENY events. So we're going to continue the tradition. So Before we get started, do you have your drink with you?
I do.
So I'm going to toast to you and to We the SEs.
Well, thank you. You have like champagne. I got beer.
There you go. Man. Well, cheers to SEs and our community.
Thanks, man.
Perfect. So Ramzi, What's your story? What's your background? When did you move to Canada? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Lebanon, and I moved to Canada officially in 2006. Although I did a stint like as a foreign student in 2002, 2003, and then I didn't come back until I came back as an immigrant in 2006. I went to university here in Ottawa called Carleton University, graduated in communications engineering, did my internship at Nortel. And as soon as I left Nortel, finished my internship, went back to university, Nortel went bankrupt. So I've been taking credit for that ever since. And then couldn't find a job for a few months after that. until I networked and I found a job at Alcatel-Lucent. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can get into more
So
details if you want. I was born.
yeah. So we want to know about. We're gonna get into your career side of things. You always ask, everyone about their career. How did you, why did you decide to move to Canada, and how was it growing up in Lebanon?
Why I decided to move. Growing up in Lebanon, it was fine. I played basketball pretty much the entire, like, my life was basketball. I didn't do anything else other study basketball.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I came to Canada was my brother, who's a couple of years older than I am. He came to Canada to study mechanical engineering, and I knew there wasn't a future for me in Lebanon from way back when, based on my parents' experience. Like, teachers will get paid $1,000 a month, and no benefits, nothing. So
No, as an immigrant, I completely understand.
yeah,
Canada, U.S. It's the land of opportunity.
exactly.
Totally understand. So, tell us about your family a little bit. You have on your if you guys go to Vida SE's website, there's a beautiful picture we have of Ramsey and his wife. Tell us more about your family.
Yeah, my wife, her name is Roxanne. She does the intros for the podcast. She used to come up with a brand new tidbit about me every week, but it was just getting too hectic, so we decided to stop that. Hopefully, one day she'll be able to come back and tell you random facts about me. She's Lebanese Canadian, or Canadian Lebanese, depending on how you want to see it. Born and raised in Canada, and I have two kids, Castiel and Lucas. We call him Loki because he is mischievous.
Has he ever interrupted you in a podcast? Has he come in your door in your office?
No, well, I'm in the basement and we have a gate at the door upstairs. He's only 2. He doesn't know how to open it yet. So he has a
Oh,
couple
okay.
obstacles to overcome. My eldest has walked in on me while working on calls, but I'm not on videos much, especially for internal calls. So he just walks in, he sees me, he says, "You're on a call." I'm like, "Yeah," and he walks out. So yeah. So yeah, good. Two beautiful kids, if I may say
Yeah,
so myself. They take after their mother. So yeah.
that's great. What was one thing that you missed the most when you moved out of Lebanon and in Canada?
When I moved from Lebanon to Canada, I always tell everybody, if I could work in Canada and make Canadian money and then spend it in Lebanon, that would be great, because Lebanon was fun. Lebanon was fun. Like, you go out, you drink, stay up till 1:00 in the morning. Sorry, 4:00 in the morning, and go straight to work.
There,
That was the environment that we were in. Most of my friends were in Lebanon at the time when I left. Like, I was one of the first ones to leave. Now most of them are
and is
in,
this
like,
Beirut? Is this Beirut?
well, I'm
What
like,
city was?
I lived maybe 20 minutes north of Beirut, uh, without traffic, 5 hours to north of Beirut with traffic. But yeah, like, most of them are now, but Lebanon is fairly small. So when I say Lebanon, you can cross the entirety of Lebanon in 5 hours. Right? Like, I can drive
Wow,
I can cross Lebanon faster than I would be able to go to New York. So yeah, like,
that's awesome.
that's what I missed. I miss my friends mainly. My family's there. That's pretty much
Yeah,
it.
Beirut was the Paris of the Middle East, so I've heard great stories about it. So that's why I had to ask you.
Yeah. Well, like, we'd go party in Beirut. Like,
Right.
at night, 20 minutes, we were in Beirut, rooftop bars and underground dungeons. There was a bar in
Wow.
Lebanon that was a bomb shelter, like a former bomb shelter. They converted it
Oh
into
man.
a nightclub. They do crazy stuff in Lebanon. Anything. So in 2005, I don't know if that's what you want to talk about, but in
Mhm.
2005, in Lebanon, they started every week. There was a bomb somewhere going off. Right? It started when when the prime minister was assassinated, and and so every week we'd wait for the bomb to go off on a Friday, on a Saturday. As soon as it goes off, we pack our stuff and we go to a party in the opposite direction. So if it went up in the north, we'd go down to Beirut to party. If it went up in Beirut, we'd go up north to party. So
Oh boy.
we were not very smart. Like, we would do things. Right? We wouldn't think about, like, there could be another bomb somewhere, but
Yeah.
we didn't really care. So yeah.
That's a great story. So did you go to college in Lebanon, or was that Canada?
I did a couple of years, and then I came. So I did 1 year in Canada, went back to Lebanon, did a couple of years, and then when I came back as an immigrant, I finished it here in Canada.
And what did you study in college? What was your major?
Communications engineering.
So what engineering do you need in communications? No offense.
I don't know. Well, right now everything's communications. How do you think traffic
Right.
goes to AWS? Like, what do you think is just magically appears there?
Network communications. I thought the comm studies. You know, we have this communication studies.
No, communications, like data communications engineering. Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
It's an offshoot of computer engineering. It's the advanced version of computer engineering, if you will. I just pissed off a bunch of computer engineers.
And for those listening, there was, this is just a very casual conversation. Communication studies is great. Every study is great. Okay, so
sure.
What was the first job, Ramsey? You have a communications degree now, like network communications. How hard was it to find a job, and what was your first job?
So I graduated in 2009. In 2008, I was promised a job at Nortel, and then I went back to university, and it went bankrupt. Yeah, 2009 wasn't really a good time to find jobs. I spent maybe 4 or 5 months after I graduated, could not find a job, but I had already applied for my master's degree, and I was accepted, and I was given like scholarships and whatnot to be to do my master's. But I really wanted to get a job. I didn't really want to do masters. I never enjoyed studying, so it took me a few months, and then I met someone at a. So I'm from a city in Lebanon called Zahle, and every year the people from Zahle in Ottawa, they do a barbecue, and I met someone there, and she told me, I was wearing my Nortel shirt. She looks at me and it's like, "Hey, you work for Nortel?" I'm like, "No, I'm looking for a job. I work for Akshat Srivastava. We're looking for support engineers." I'm like, "I don't know what that is, but I'll take it." And that's how I got my job. You're on mute, by the way.
So for those people who are listening, this is how important communication is, really networking. You got your first job out of networking. So what did you end up doing as a support engineer? Like, what was your day-to-day duties?
Well, so I was a third layer support engineer. So there was a field support engineer, and then there's a second tier support engineer. Escalations came up to third support engineers. A couple of things. Mainly, if a ticket happened and a ticket was issued and it escalated up to third layer support, I had to try to gather more information about what the issue is, how it happened, and try to produce it in the lab at Alcatel-Lucent. That was one thing. A second thing was, if there's an outage, sometimes I'd have to jump on the call because I had to resolve the outage, not worry about what caused the outage initially, just resolve it and then reproduce the issue. So we had pagers, like, or cell phone. Yeah, we have phones basically. We carry with us off working hours, and then we also did new product introduction. So a new feature came down. We would write the training slides or training material for it, and then we'd go provide the training for second tier support and field support engineers.
Wow. So you were a support engineer, and it has no relation to pre-sales. It has nothing to do with sales engineering. Maybe unless a sales engineer is opening a ticket and communicating with you. So when was the first time you even heard the term sales engineer?
The first time I heard the term sales engineer, I was part of the support engineering team still, but I was kind of like leased to the network design team. And I was sent to do training at a customer site. And that's where I met the first sales engineer I've ever known. And he was not very technical at all. Like, I thought he was a salesperson because he didn't know any of the technology that I was talking about. Right. So I didn't, Even when I
Yeah.
learned about that, I just thought they were salespeople. I didn't know it was different from account management. Right.
Okay. So at Alcatel is where you actually knew some SEs and you heard the term.
Yeah. I just didn't know what they do. I thought they did nothing.
That's what a lot of people think about when they hear the term sales, especially if you're coming from a engineering background.
Oh yeah.
People don't really, view sales as a tough kind of career. They think it's very easy, and
Well,
it's just people.
I read somewhere, I think it was on Reddit, someone asked the question, like, what's a sales engineer? And one of the responses was, it's a failed engineer. Like, dude, I'd love to see a nerdy engineer who just does nothing. He doesn't never talk to people, come and do the job that we do, where we have to translate that information that you're working on to customers. Try to do that. So yeah, we get a bad rep sometimes, but I don't really care.
Absolutely. And you know what? Like I've seen a lot of engineers who work for smaller product companies, once they interact with SEs, and especially the product manager, they're dependent on us to guide,
Yeah.
a product's roadmap because we are close to the customer. Once
Yeah.
they see that, I think there's definitely a lot of respect that comes. But I think people like you and our communities, the work we're doing, I think people will understand what we do, and then the career will be, known more than it is now.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next part, right?
All right.
You're Alcatel, you're a support engineer, then you were a network design engineer. You were there for almost 5 years. Why leave it, and why join Spirent as a sales engineer? And how did you get that?
Right. I left Nokia or Alcatel-Lucent at the time because I was severely underpaid. My manager knew that. Everybody knew that. Like, it was really a secret. I was doing a senior person's job, getting paid a junior engineer's salary, and I feel like a lot of big companies do that, where they're hindered by HR or by, like, if the manager is not strong enough to defend the reason you need a promotion, you don't get promoted. And I had tried to talk I was a network design engineer for a year and a half or a year and 8 months, and throughout the entire time I was talking to my manager there, like, hey man, I need a raise. I've proved that I've deserved a raise, and he agreed with me, but he couldn't do anything about it. And I started looking elsewhere. I applied for every sort of job under the sun that's outside of Alcatel-Lucent. And Spirent was kind of the first systems engineer job that I applied to, and I got the job. I didn't know what that was. I just knew it paid a lot more than what I was getting paid, and it's called systems engineering when I applied to it. In the process of talking to the manager, I learned a little bit about what it was, but even by the time I got the job, I had no idea what it was. In the interview, the manager asked me, what would you do if your RSM did this or that? And I had no idea what RSM was. It's regional sales manager. I know that now.
Right.
But
or what discovery is, or what is the deal cycle, all those.
Yeah, discovery, I didn't learn about that until like a year and a half later after I got the job. And I tell that story often.
Oh man.
But yeah,
okay.
So I did the interview. I didn't know what anything was. I just learned throughout the interview process that I would be doing demos. I'd be working with customers. I'd be basically helping sell stuff. But my idea of sales engineers was they're not very technical. So I was kind of hesitant to take the job. But during the course of the interview, I learned that they're asking me a lot of technical questions. So it must be technical. Yeah.
So because I've experienced a similar thing, right? I mean, before my interview with App Dynamics, which was my first SE job, I actually read Robert Reichstall's Demo to Win book, and I underlined and I literally prepared flashcards to literally learn the jargon, the terminology. What's a discovery? What's a deal cycle? Medic. I learned like terms about metrics and decision criteria and all that stuff. No one told me to, but that book really helped me, because the interview process was a combination of interviewing with sales reps and interviewing with the SE team. So the sales reps would just expect you to just know. But I would always credit my first hiring, manager, Paul Jasic, who had faith in me, and he said, "Look, you're good to talk to, and you know how to network with people. We'll teach you what's an SE like." So, in terms of your experience, right, Ramsey, how did your manager put that faith in you? What did you demonstrate, and what would you like to advise people with zero SE background?
I feel, but he never told me that, but I feel like I demonstrated likability. Like he enjoyed talking to me. We're still friends. And I was able to like build a relationship with him from the first time I met him. Like we were joking around. I used the whiteboard. I was dynamic. I wasn't boring, basically, which I think he thought it was a good thing. But the biggest, and this is a tip I give everybody, I worked for their biggest customer, right? So Alcatel-Lucent was a customer of that company. And I had insight into that. And a lot of the questions that and there wasn't a salesperson at the time when I was like the first SE in the country. And there wasn't a sales team in the country yet. So I knew the customer. I was able to talk about people that worked at Nokia or Alcatel-Lucent. So Nokia purchased Alcatel-Lucent, in case anyone's wondering. That's why I keep calling it as Nokia. So that's the main reason I think they wanted someone from Nokia. And also I showed like, hey man, I'm willing to work, I'm willing to learn. And I really didn't discuss it too much, like why did you choose me. I was just happy that he chose me.
Good. Okay. So one advice to a lot of folks listening to this is if you work for a big company like any bank or any company like Disney or any customers, right? Stay close to who is selling to those companies. And if you're part of the decision criteria for that particular deal or product, it'll be easier when you apply for a job as an SE because that will come in handy to you. You'll be valued.
Yeah. If you're able to actually be one of the people working on that product that you're being sold and be an influencer that would help that sales team, the next time there's an opportunity, they will come and talk to you. So yeah.
100%. So moving on to some fun topics, right? 130% of your quota in 2015. How did that feel, and how did people treat you? And by people, I mean the account reps, because you're an SC now, you've proven 130%. What changed?
So that's in 2015, right? I had one salesperson, so I worked with that one salesperson. So we both achieved 130% of our quota. We were a good team. I don't think I was treated any differently. By the time 2015 ended, they told me about 2016. I'm like, oh man, now I'm gonna have to do that. So I feel like for sales, it's more like, what are you gonna do for me today, not what you did for me last year. Like, great, last year you did that, right. You achieved your quota. Because we were the first team in the country, or the first, we're first sales team within our territory. We were given not very challenging quota. Like we all knew we should achieve it. So it wasn't really something like overly hurrah, you did an amazing job. It's like, yeah, you did what you're supposed to do, good job. Here's a higher quota that you should get in 2016, which I did not get. I got up to 87%.
Right. Yeah, the next year I see it, you put everything on your LinkedIn, so it's easy to research that. How about your coworkers, your colleagues, SEs? Did you see a change in them when you were chosen for club? And I'm going to dig deeper into the club experience a little bit. But talk to me about that. Like, how was that experience?
I honestly don't feel like it was a big deal. There was every year there's 50% of us would go on stage and 50% of us won't.
Oh wow, 50% is a big number. Usually it's like 10 or 18%.
No, well, okay. So I didn't. We have like President's Club and there's like the Century Club. I can't remember the terminology at Spire. So the one of them is like the top 1% or top 10%. The other one's whoever makes quota. Right?
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I
every
make
company
quota.
has their own. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most common one. How did it feel from an engineer, now you're an SE, to actually go to club? Like, how was that experience? Did you feel like you picked the right career? Was it a aha moment that, hey, this is great, I'm actually getting recognized? What did it feel like?
For me, just achieving quota, like I enjoyed that
No,
I got paid extra.
going to club. Going to club is what I mean. How did that feel?
So just define going to club for me, because it might be different terminologies from where you're at and where we're at.
So going to club, it means a free trip where you can bring your significant other or
I didn't get
spouse.
that.
Oh, so that's what a president's club is, by the way.
Well, at Spirent, it might have been different. I think there was Century and anyways, it might be the other way around that I miswrote. I never remember those. But yeah, I
Got
never
it. So,
got to do that. But on the other hand,
okay.
I did get to go to Hawaii for a global sales meeting, and I took my wife and child at the time, so it was fun. That was fun.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. What a great journey you have had, Ramsey. So let me talk to you about, your next career transition. You spent almost more than 4 years at Spirent, and you switched to Keysight. What
Yeah.
triggered that decision?
Because I was based out of Canada, there wasn't much room for growth for sales engineers. Like, I'm either going to have to transition into sales, or I'm going to have to remain an SE for the rest of my life. There's nothing wrong with that. I just want the option to be able to grow. I don't want to go into sales. I want to grow as a sales engineer, either a principal or a SE leader in one way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
So there was that. Another thing was there were some internal politics which wanted, so the leaders within the company didn't want me to have a podcast for some reason, which I'm not gonna really dig into. So the podcast was very
Fair.
important to me because it was a way for me to learn and get better. And thirdly, the only reason I stayed 4 years with that company is because I had a great manager who decided to leave. So I had nothing tying me down. Like I was loyal to that manager more than I was loyal to the company because of the politics that had happened. He left, and the opportunity came up where the hiring manager at Keysight approached me, and I wasn't out there looking for a job, but he approached me and we worked things out. My colleague in Toronto had left Spirent for Keysight several months earlier, and he's the one who pressured me into talking to the hiring manager there. So that's the reason.
No, that's very fair. And oftentimes it's been said out there that people don't leave companies; they leave management. So for the managers listening to this podcast, you got to hear your employees out and see where they're at. And it's really an achievement if you have loyal employees, because they will not just do good to your team; they will do good by the company. So for the managers listening out there, that's a great story. So Keysight, also a much bigger company. How are you enjoying it over there?
Well, I came from a big company like Nokia, Alcatel. It was a huge company, and then I
Right.
liked the dynamics within the Spirent. It was just easier to do things. Like if you need a piece of equipment for your lab, just go get it. If it was just easier. Right now, it's there's a little bit more bureaucracy. You have to fill in a few more paperwork to get anything done. It just that's what happens when you go with bigger companies. My team is fairly small, so within the team, I still feel that dynamics. Like we're still able to make decisions quickly. We can do things quickly, but in the end, it ends up being the same. Spirent wasn't a startup. Like it was big. It's been around for 80 years. So
Yeah.
everything's set in the way they do things. Same thing with Keysight. So nothing has changed basically there.
Wonderful. Have you considered a leader role? You do so much for the community. Have you been asked or considered, and you don't have to answer this for your current company, in general, I'm just asking in general, or you want to continue with an individual contributor role? What does the future hold for Ramsey?
Well, that's the reason I left. One of the reasons that I left my old company is because I wanted the option to move into that leadership role. So yeah, like I think that my next move would be into a leadership role if I'm like able to get it, if someone trusts me with that role. And like I've made it clear that I want that role. I feel I'd have a bigger impact on sales engineers in general within my company, or I'd have a bigger impact in my company by being a leader versus an individual contributor. That's my take. Other people might disagree, and I have to prove them wrong, or they have to prove me wrong.
Very, very true. Very true. Let's switch gears now, Ramsey, and talk about We the SEs.
Sure.
When did you get the idea to start We the SEs?
2018. Well, 2017. End
Really?
of 2017, I thought of it, and like I thought of it in December, and February I took a month off because my wife gave birth to my second child. So February 2018, and that's when I started recording. I recorded like 4 or 5 episodes, and I published the first one end of April.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's been a while.
Very good. And yeah, it's been a while. Was the podcast your first idea, or was starting a blog and website was that your first idea?
Well, I started the website to host the podcast. When I first started, so in 2018, I had been on the job for in 2017, I've been on the job for 4 years. I wasn't exactly, and I never got feedback from anybody because I was a remote SE if I'm doing the job right or wrong. And back in 2016, I had discovered that I'm doing it very, very wrong. And I was trying to find ways to get better, which is kind of the genesis of We the SEs. It only took me a year and a half to come up with the idea of the podcast. So it started off as a podcast and with me interviewing people. And because I didn't know if I was doing it right, I didn't know if what I had was valuable enough for anybody to listen to. But as we went along, as I got confidence that, hey, I'm talking to these SEs and they're not saying anything that I don't know yet. There's always something you'd learn, but the majority is I knew. So I decided to start writing blogs, decided to start doing like solo podcasts. I did some webinars. Now I've kind of cooled off on the blogs and I'm trying to do more YouTube videos instead.
I see that. You're always thinking about the next things. What's the goal with the YouTube videos? You think people like consume more content via a video versus radio?
It's an option. The podcast gets a lot more listens or downloads than the YouTube videos get views, right? But it is an option there, and it's another way to get the message out about sales engineering, because not many people not many people search for podcasts about sales engineering. Most people watch YouTube or read blogs. So especially when you're sitting in front of a computer. So I decided to just do YouTube to bring awareness to the podcast, I guess. It's marketing.
And Ramsey, one of the questions that all of us are curious about, you have a full-time job. How much time do you spend on We the SEs? It's a lot of time and it's a lot of commitment.
Yeah, so interviewing takes around an hour. So I do that like Monday morning and Thursday after work. So there's a couple hours there. Right now, I just asked somebody else, like I'm paying someone to do the edits because I just can't do that anymore. I just don't have enough time. But I'd say I work a couple hours, 2-3 hours a day, and I'm trying to push that up to 4 hours, but I don't know where I'm going to find the 4th hour, but 2-3 hours a day after work or before work, after the kids go to sleep, something like that.
But you also have a website you manage. You also are doing, helping the SEs who have lost their job in COVID. You manage a forum on We the SEs, and you have a LinkedIn page you're very active on. So how much time does all of that take, Ramsey?
2 to 3 hours a day, pretty much.
2 to 3 hours a day. That's a lot. That's a good amount of time. And what have you're dedicating so much time, right? And listen, like I help run SENY. We have 4 other folks running it with me. Then we have the chapters. We have Nick. We have from Boston and his team. We got Melissa, Henry in DC. We got people in Toronto. They all are spending some time, right? So I gotta ask you, like what have you most gained, right? Personally or professionally, since you started this from Vida SE, it's like why is it so rewarding to you that you're spending 2-3 hours a day?
So I started it to get better at my job. Like, it's kind of a side hustle that makes me better at my primary hustle. And I got access to people that I would never have gotten access to. I think it was show 16 or 18. John Kerr came on the show.
Yeah.
Who I never would have thought John Kerr would like waste a minute of his time with me. Like he works with companies. He doesn't work with individuals. So, and getting my company to go buy his course, good luck with that. So,
right.
Yeah, it's just John Kerr. I talked to Peter Cohan, Brian Geary. I developed a relationship with Chris White. And like we're friends. We talk. Like, it goes a month goes by and we haven't chatted. It's like we reach out to each other. Like, dude, we haven't talked in a month. Come on, let's jump on a Zoom. That it's and frankly, I get so many emails and messages from people saying like, "Thank you." Like, I didn't know what it was. One guy actually said that his account manager walked up to him and told him, "You're doing your job better for the last few months," and he attributes that to we the SEs.
That's amazing. The amount of messages you get, even if you change one person's life or inspire them, you have done amazing. You've done a lot for the community.
Yeah.
So that is very rewarding. And we all work because we get paid and we get we have to. But doing something for the community, for folks, personally, it's unbelievable. There's no money that can buy this kind of reward. So that's good to know, man. Looking back, right, what is one thing you would change about how you started with SEs?
I don't know, man. I haven't had the chance to think about it. I don't even know if I would change anything. Like, I'm here talking to you. I don't know if maybe I would have spent a little bit more money trying to do the website and make it look a little bit nicer. Maybe instead of opening a forum, I would have opened a Slack channel. There's a billion little things that maybe we could have done differently, but I don't know what the outcome would have been. Like, it's all an experiment. It's just trying to see what works best.
No, 100%. You know what, with your journey, you learn a lot of things, and looking back, you always like, hey, maybe I should have done this better. But it's great that it's good the way it has turned out. It's definitely gotten a lot of views, and it has inspired a lot of people. There are many communities that are opening up now for SEs, right?
Yep.
How do you position Vida SEs amongst other SE learning and enablement communities? Like how do you differentiate yourself? And this is a common question, right, that you get as an SE when you're selling a product. So I'm asking the same question.
I feel like we're like, it's a complete solution, and because we do videos, blogs, I have courses. I work with Chris. We're a complete solution and frankly, I'm doing all of this because we as sales engineers, we make enough money. Not the main purpose of we DSEs is not to make money. So I don't really care if I differentiate myself, right? I'm just
exactly
here to help.
Same with us.
Yeah. So I'm here to basically help as many SEs as we can. But the only thing I could say, I was here first, I guess, right? I started
Yes, you were.
2018. It is global, so you're getting experiences from someone in the United Arab Emirates, and someone in the US. I had people from Germany on the call recently, Great Britain. So it is global. And, I don't want to sound cheesy or anything, but we put SEs first. Like, it's a resource for SEs by sales and by SEs.
Yes, you do say that in your podcast.
Well, it
So,
is. I'm like, it's not just me, right? It's a whole community that's coming together. And that's the beauty of it.
that's great, man. You remember your first podcast? It was with Bill. Oh,
Bill McCarroll. He was
yes.
my manager at Spirent for like 6 months.
So again, people who are aspiring podcast folks or who want to generate content, reach out to your network. You reached out to your manager as your
Yep.
first person. What kept you going beyond that podcast? How many views did you get? What was it like after you published that?
The whole first month, like May of 2018, I got 125 downloads in total.
Wow.
And I had
not bad.
I had
That's
5
not
episodes. Bad. Yeah. I'm not complaining about it. I don't know what kept me, like, I just wanted to learn. I did this for me. The easiest way to get someone to talk to you is to tell them you have a podcast or a platform or something. Like, try to get John Kerr to talk to you without having something to show for it. Like, hey, I'm a random guy who I'm reaching out to you because I have a bunch of questions for you.
Yeah.
He probably won't give you the time of day. But because I had a platform, and I think it was show 12 with Tim. He's a recruiter in Ottawa, and I had to split his show into 2 because he talked about writing the resume, how to fix up your resume, how to fix up your LinkedIn. And that just exploded. People loved that. Exploded
Wonderful,
relatively to our community. Like, we have a small community, so it didn't go viral like a Tim Ferriss thing or anything. But for our community,
you really need
huge.
that. You really need that one break. You need that one event. For SENY, it was one of the Salesforce events we did, and a lot of folks who attended, by word of mouth, they were like, "Oh, this is a great event. We, you got to go check it out." So you really need that one event, and then you have to keep the momentum going. So what inspires you with all these ideas you come up with? Is this your own experience, or are you constantly getting feedback from folks?
Both. I'm like, I have my own experience and I want to share that, but my experience doesn't reflect to a lot of people, right? So I'm always asking for feedback. Like, what do you want to see? What do you want to look at? Like my latest podcast, I had a chat with the person I interviewed after to see what I did right and what I did wrong, right? And he told me, like, I guided him well, and I didn't try to show how smart I am, because frankly there isn't much to show there. I was more curious about his questions, and I took that feedback, and I know that, hey, maybe I should talk even less. We'll try that out. Or some people, when I did a course for the Road to Sales Engineering, which is to help SE or aspiring SEs become SEs. I got a lot of messages afterwards saying, hey, do you have anything for current SEs who want to get better as SEs? And that kind of sparked the work that I did with Chris, where we did a course together, SE Mastery.
Yes, yeah. And how was the response on that course, by the way?
It was very good, man. People who purchased it are very happy with it. This is coming from me, someone who's selling the course. So,
right.
Like, we can get someone to actually give a testimonial, but that's what I've been told. And people reach out afterwards and say, thank you, this was a very good course, and it was good to have 2 people talking instead of 1 person reading slides. This is all feedback that we got. Yeah.
And did you teach the course, or was it mostly Chris teaching the course?
It was Chris's material. I was there to ask questions, make commentary, just to make it a little bit more dynamic and bring a different perspective to it. Like, he's been an SE in one industry. I'm an SE in a different industry. Yeah. So it brings that value, and I feel like he enjoys talking to me. Not sure why, but yeah, so it was good in that aspect. Like it didn't make it monotonous. Imagine you sitting in front of a screen and just talking for a half hour and trying to be engaging.
Yeah.
So that
Right.
helped in that aspect.
Very good. Very good. It's a lot of time commitment, but you have been rewarded. You have inspired a lot of folks. You have really changed people's lives, man. Thank you for that on behalf of everyone who has been inspired by you. How does it affect your regular SE work? Are you able to like do your regular job or are there kind of are you constantly like worried about time?
It's making me better as an SE. There are things that I'm learning. Like I mentioned earlier, like I didn't have the confidence to write my own blogs, and then I knew that I knew a lot of the things that people are talking about. But almost in every podcast every interview that I've done, there was one nugget that I'm like, yep, that's what I'm going to do in the next time I meet a customer. So it's making me more efficient, and like, or sometimes it makes me slower too, because I have a demo coming up on Friday, and I've been thinking for like 3 days now straight about it, but how am I going to make it more engaging? What's the story I'm going to tell? Right. So it gives me a little bit more, too many options. Sometimes you just need to do it. But in general, it's making me more efficient, allowing me to ask better questions to my customers, not be afraid to actually tell the customer what they need to do. So from a time perspective, yeah, I'm always worried that I don't have enough time to do everything that I need to do, but I feel like almost everybody thinks that way. So even if I didn't have the podcast, I'd probably be thinking the same thing. Work expands to fill in the time that you need or the time that you have.
Right.
So
no, that's very honest answer. And most successful people, they do a lot of work. I mean, look at any kind of entrepreneur. They're having to fill multiple roles and hats. So we all applaud what you're doing, Ramsey. What does the future hold for Vida SEs?
More of the same. We're gonna relaunch the course with Chris in September, most likely. Relaunch the Road to Sales Engineering around the same time, which will help like pay for that person who's doing the editing, and maybe help me to put out more resources, more information out for sales engineers. So we're just ramping up, and open
Great.
to ideas.
I mean,
if anybody has any ideas that they want me to do, please share it with me. I'm happy to do it.
2 years down the line, I'm not going to say 5. 5 is a long time. 2 years down the line, where would you like Vida SEs to go? Just expand what you have, or what is the ideal road for Vida SEs?
I would like to have more courses on the website about specific we have a lot of courses about demos. I haven't seen any courses about discovery. Maybe there is, but I haven't seen any. There isn't any course about storytelling, about whiteboarding, and maybe these are all advanced aspects that we can talk about with our with SEs, and we're expected to just know how to do these things, except nobody teaches you. Or you're gonna have to go out and find that out. I don't know. Like I'm just hoping to reach more people. Everything that I do is like I put back into the website. So hopefully that will help me reach more people and do more things for the SE community.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that brings us to an end of the interview. As far as the serious questions and your background and your life is concerned. Now it's time for some fun.
Okay. I thought this entire thing was fun. Come on.
Good. No, man, I'm glad. It's supposed to be casual and fun. And I'm all about not just sticking to, work or, professional questions all the time. It's about learning about you as a person. I think that's really very important. Even your colleagues, you gotta, there's always a personal aspect. So that was the point of this interview. Moving on, the last section.
All right.
I call this the Sam Pena invention rapid fire section from SENY, except I have expanded this to be a little bit longer of a rapid fire. Now the rules are you cannot take more than 5 seconds to think about an answer. So you gotta just be quick and you have to, just say something. And if you don't want to, just say next.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So are you ready,
No,
Ramsey?
let's go.
If you had one SE book to take with you on a deserted island, which one would it be?
Can I take two?
No, one.
The 6 Habits of Highly Effective Sales Engineers. Or Mastering Technical Sales. Sorry, I had to throw that one in there.
The first one is the right answer. All right. Hardest podcast interview you have ever conducted?
It was a gentleman early on in my career, like episode 6. He was a brand new SE. And his answers were fairly short. So it was a very short interview, and I had to think of a lot of questions to come up with I come up with topics, and we dissect these topics as we talk through them. But the way he was answering it, it's like, all right, I guess I have to come up with more questions. It was more tiresome than other podcasts, but yeah.
Fair enough. Most fun guest you ever had on the podcast, as in you genuinely had fun and you thought about it. Man, that was a good time.
I had a lot of fun ones, but the first one that came to mind was with Mark. He's in England. Mark Green. He's called the Joy Machine.
Green.
Yeah.
I gotta look up Mark Green. Mark Green, if you're listening to this, thank you for an amazing podcast. We all gotta check it out. Okay. If you had to, who would you share a 20-hour road trip with? You can only pick one person out of these three. Robert Rystall, Chris White, or John Kerr. It's all in fun and games, guys.
I would say John Kerr, because I already can do that. I feel I can already do that with Chris. I can call him up anytime. We could just chat. So John, for that reason. I haven't had the chance of meeting Rob, so I don't know.
Okay. Fair. I really like the fact that you're so PC. You had to throw in, hey, I can always call Chris, but I got to share a ride with John. Great job, man. Definitely an SE. All right. But the answer is John Kerr. John, yeah. I would love to be part of that road trip too. Thank you. Favorite account or deal that you sold to you're really proud of, you tell everyone and you still remember?
I'm not going to name the account, but it's a customer in my previous role where we hadn't sold anything in 9 years. So I have named the accounts, right? It's not like I don't have new customers every day. I have the same customers over and over again. And this is one customer that had not purchased from us for like 9 or 10 years. And we kept calling on them. We kept visiting them. We kept trying to help them in any way, shape, or form. And then when the opportunity came, we just knocked it out of the park. So that's the one.
Very good. Very good. All right. Most fun SENY guest that you interviewed, and you interviewed all the SENY founders.
Owen. I got to say.
Owen is the most fun. Congratulations, Owen. You win a prize. We're going to ship one to you. Awesome. Okay.
Mainly because he was talking trash about everybody else.
No, it's fine. It's most fun. He is the most fun. All right. In your next life, would you be an SE or an AE?
SE, always. I'm being pushed into the AE role right now.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find a way to push back. So,
good.
In this life or the next, it'll be an SE.
We the SEs. Love it. Favorite TV show of all time, or something that you have binged on and you loved?
Supernatural.
All right. Most expensive customer dinner you were part of with your AE? Dollar amount.
No, I haven't been to an expensive dinner with my AE at a customer side. I've been to an expensive dinner with my manager, and somehow customers appeared on the expense report. That wasn't my doing. So.
Perfect. The perks of being an SE. And final question. SENY or PSC?
SENY, man. I have a good relationship with you guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We do too. That was the whole point of the interview, right? Basically to get your feedback on the last question. So I really appreciate it, Ramsey. You're doing great. You're an inspiration to me, to a lot of other SEs, and we all can learn a lot from you. Keep doing what you're doing for the community. SENY will always be there to support you. I can promise and guarantee that. And that's all from us. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Thank you to all the listeners.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. All right. Well, that's it. Thanks, Akshat, for doing this to me. I appreciate it. It was fun. I really enjoyed talking about it. And I don't know if anybody else feels the same way that he does, but he feels like he needs to know a little bit more about me. And that was his opportunity to do it while recording the show. So I really enjoyed talking to Akshat. He also brings great value. And check out SENY if you haven't done so. I feel like I always talk about them. They're a very good community of people who want to help SEs in general. So check them out. And do me a favor. I haven't had a rating or review in a while on iTunes or Google Cloud, whatever. Please do so. It helps people know that this is a good podcast. And I know that this is a good podcast because people keep telling me it's a good podcast. So do that. Let people know. It takes a few minutes and I would greatly appreciate it. And it's a way to support the show that's coming out with its 121st episode. Anyways, I will see you guys next time. With that, this is Ramsey for the absent Benny signing off.